most of recorded history, there have been rules on sexual practice. From the Code of Leviticus, which many believe was delivered directly from the Almighty, to sodomy laws enacted by legislatures and constitutional amendments defining marriage. But times and attitudes change, and homosexual people, who not too many years ago were considered mentally ill, are now a politically active and often a protected class. Some companies now offer benefits to same-sex partners of employees. Some states now recognize non-traditional marriages. The Episcopal Church raised eyebrows worldwide with its consecration of a homosexual bishop. Many Oklahomans might think the issue has been settled here with the overwhelming approval of a Defense of Marriage Amendment in 2004. State Question 711 passed with a more than 70% majority. But did it resolve the real question? This edition of STATELINE examines the underlying issues of sexual orientation, fairness, family, and the law. The real questions are still out there and unresolved.
They're trying to force their beliefs upon us, and it's not going to happen. It will not happen.
It is a man and a woman.
I'm an evangelical Christian, and I'm not ashamed.
And what does that do for the sanctity of marriage and defense of marriage?
Where do you start when you start talking about homosexuality?
Well, in Oklahoma, you start by talking about the church. And you start talking about the religious beliefs that sort of keep homosexuality from being expressed openly in the state.
Marriage is not just created by government, but by God.
I think that Oklahoma isn't much different from the rest of our nation insofar as we are in times of cultural divides, cultural wars.
We in Oklahoma are proud that we discriminate against people. We have put that on record that we don't like those people, we don't want them to have the rights, and we put it in the Constitution so you can't change it.
In November 2004, Oklahoma voters approved a constitutional ban against gay marriage. Most of the state's gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered citizens saw it as an official sanctioning of an unofficial discrimination. They argued that in banning gay marriage, Oklahoma is violating their civil rights.
This state question that was passed by 74% of the voters covered 4 issues. 3 of those issues were already on state books. The definition of marriage as one man and one woman. The prohibition of recognition of marriages, of same gender marriages from other states, and the punishment for somebody issuing a license in violation of that order. Those 3 issues were already on state statutes, and the Attorney General had already issued an official opinion upholding the constitutionality of those statutes. The one part that was not on there, and the one part that people didn't look at, was the line that said, this prohibits giving the benefits of marriage to persons who are not married. So what that did, one, is outlaw common law marriage. But for me, it prevented me and all of my LGBT brethren from ever having the opportunity for full freedom in this state in relation to marital benefits, under any name, under the name civil union, under the name domestic partnership, whatever they call it, we can't have it in Oklahoma.
I'm someone who in 1996 lost my partner. He died following a long terminal chronic condition, and I had no legal right to be in that hospital hallway to help make those decisions, you know, at the end of his life. And that is a real life issue, you know. I'm not asking for a church or others aren't asking for a particular religion to recognize them in some faith-based ceremony. They're asking for simple recognition to be themselves and to make significant life decisions, end-of-life decisions, you know, that they as a family have decided together. And that's really what it's about.
Why are they treated differently? Why do we do that? Why do we need mean people? Because of a commitment inside of them. It's not about sex, folks. It's not about all these wild things that Pat Robinson and Jerry Falwell and people talk about. It's about a commitment of a person to the person they want to spend their life with. It's a gender thing.
A lot of the people that I talked to were afraid that a vote against State Question 711 was a vote for gay marriage. And they believed that because that's what the conservative politicians and the fundamentalist churches told them. And that was not the case. That a vote against State Question 711 would simply have been a vote against constitutional discrimination. We are now one of 11 embarrassing states that constitutionally discriminate against our own citizens, and that is wrong.
Since November 2004, when Oklahomans voted to ban gay marriage, one more state followed suit, Kansas. Before November of 2004, 5 states already had constitutional bans in place, so that as of spring 2005, a total of 17 U.S. states have constitutional bans against gay marriage.
What bothers me about that is to amend the Constitution for the sole purpose of limiting rights to a certain group of people.
Helen Golden and Melody Garneau have been a couple for 6 years. They live in Oklahoma City. They have no plans to marry, but resent governmental interference in personal decisions.
It's none of their business any more than anything else anyone does in their personal life is any of their business. They're going to collect the same amount of tax no matter what, and they're going to do all the other things that the state would do with or without it. And so I think they need to keep they need to restrict themselves to things that have to do with what they're there for, running the state, the budget, and so forth.
Where's my dinosaur hug?
There you go.
On the heels of approving a statewide vote to ban gay marriage, Oklahoma legislators made another move that could further affect this family.
When 7/11 was put on the ballot, just within a week or so after that, there was also an adoption law passed. And there were only 4 legislators voted against that adoption law, saying that not only could gays not adopt, okay, but it brought into question if someone already had adopted children from out of state and came into Oklahoma, that wouldn't be valid.
Remember, this is the part where it's okay to be messy.
Melody and Helen are in the process of adopting Melody's nephew, Dakota. He's a 4-year-old with special needs who was a ward of the state of Rhode Island. Rhode Island allows gay couples to adopt, but in Oklahoma, the adoption and this family are on shaky ground.
We got her!
House Bill 1821 what it says is that if a child is adopted by a gay couple out of state, that Oklahoma will only recognize one of the parents. My biggest fear is if something happened to Melody, what standing would I have? What standing would I have to keep him? And that, if I think about that too much, it's pretty terrifying.
Some worry that measures limiting gay rights will eventually hurt Oklahoma's economy. In the summer of 2004, the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce held a series of meetings to discuss diversity, opportunity, and economic growth. In an article for the Oklahoma newspaper, Chamber President Roy Williams said the Chamber wanted to know why various minorities, including the GLBT community, were here and what could be done to keep them here.
The Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce is reviewing books and research that talk about the creative class and how welcoming a creative class into your community creates a lot more job opportunities, creates a lot more productivity, and strongly helps the economy.
You can look at economic regions like Austin, Seattle, Boston, San Diego, these places. You know, they have attracted this new technology, this new knowledge-based worker. And so I think our business community gets that. You know, I think they understand all humans in this location have got to be a part of our economic engine. And unless we start saying, well, we just want to stay at this level and we don't intend to grow, and we're willing to perhaps wither on the vine, then we've got to stop the demagoguery that has made people leave.
I told her, I said, yeah, this crew's coming down, they're doing this documentary.
Dwayne Fetch used to live in Oklahoma City. Now he lives and works in Arlington, Texas.
Much easier down here. There's so much variety and so much, nationality and religion, and there's so many different sects that people are much more tolerant.
He made the move for personal reasons, but the Texas economy and attitude made his decision to leave easier.
When I moved down here, from my prices I had set in Oklahoma City, I got to double my income and my price structure by moving to a metroplex area. That the economy is better here in Texas also. There's more corporate business. There's more money.
But for some, the decision to leave Oklahoma is based entirely on voter and legislative action against gays.
I am so disappointed in the future of Oklahoma that I'm going to be moving out of this state.
Paul Barbie is a pioneer in Oklahoma's gay rights movement. He was heavily active in state politics when in 1996 he was asked to run for Congress. No one seemed to know he was gay.
This year, 4 openly gay candidates are running for Congress. Some have a better chance of winning than others. CNN's David Ensor spent time with one of those candidates who has an especially uphill battle.
He was Oklahoma's first openly gay political candidate.
Actually, I was fearful. I was not knowing what to expect, but I was determined to go ahead and do it.
Barbie lost his bid for Congress, but the vote margin was about the same as that of several other losing Democrats across Oklahoma that year.
Do you think you lost because you were gay or because you were a Democrat?
Both. I lost primarily because I was gay. I mean, I know people at that time who were Democrat that couldn't vote for me. I just can't vote for a gay person.
I've had people say rude things. I receive occasional attack letters, that they offer their perspective about maybe where I'm spending the afterlife.
In 2002, Jim Roth, an openly gay man, ran for and won a seat on the Oklahoma County Commission. He credits Paul Barbie with paving the way for his success.
When I decided to run, I did a lot of research into not only what I thought it would take in terms of voter outreach to win the seat, but I also looked at how Paul had done in the same precincts that I knew I would be on the ballot, and I was curious to see, how that would work. And he did incredibly well, in particular in other minority communities that have felt, the frustration of oppression, so to speak, economically, socially, what have you, in this state. And so I thought, they get it.
And the Oklahoma County minorities would stand up for Roth, too, even after he was in office. In 2005, newly elected Commissioner Brent Reinhardt challenged a county employment policy that prevents discrimination based on sexual orientation. That policy was a change brought about by Jim Roth. Community activist Clara Looper defended Roth's policy at an open county commission meeting.
And now we are asking you to break the chains of tradition and move into this century and make sure that all people will have equal rights. Don't discriminate against God's children.
Reinhardt's challenge to the most inclusive policy Oklahoma County has ever adopted failed.
Diversity goes beyond any one label that applies to people. It really is recognizing we all have value and we all have something to contribute if we're going to be successful.
The constitutional amendment banning gay marriage is the strongest challenge to the gay lifestyle in Oklahoma so far. But the ban had one positive effect on the gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgendered communities. It galvanized them and called them to act as one.
We're in the fight for our political and even economic lives here in Oklahoma.
And it's not going to happen.
And we've lost this battle.
I do.
But I've yet to believe we've lost the war.
It was just announced and said, hey, there's a federal marriage amendment out. what are we going to do? And the turnout was fantastic.
Don Satterthwaite lives in Tulsa. He is the secretary of Oklahoma's first statewide group to address gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender issues. The group is called the Oklahoma Freedom and Equality Coalition, and it was born to battle the ban on gay marriage.
Never before in Oklahoma had there been a statewide group. It had all been individuals and even more separated between Tulsa and Oklahoma City.
But the coalition stands to address more than the single issue responsible for its birth.
Hopefully in the next coming year and the years after that, we can show our fellow citizens that we're just like them. And what we want is freedoms just like them.
Rodney Johnson is a businessman in Noble and co-chairs the coalition. He came out of the closet after the Oklahoma City bombing when he worked as an EMT.
I could have died that day. I was on 5th Street just past Robinson when the bomb went off. I was one of the first persons back into the building. And I decided at that moment to live my life the way I felt was right and not let anyone else dictate to me on how I should live.
Now he wants others like him to find the support they need to be themselves.
A lot of people are leaving Oklahoma. I choose to stand and fight. I own land here. I choose to make this my home, and I'll fight for my rights.
Finding vocal community support for that fight might be difficult. Remember the Oklahoma City Chamber of Commerce? It held meetings to address the need for diversity, inviting members of the GLBT community and other minority groups to participate. When we asked the Chamber to take part in this edition of STATELINE, its leaders refused, saying they did not discuss social issues. But when the Chamber held those meetings last summer, organizers clearly saw diversity as a valid business concern. Few GLBT community members would be surprised with such silent support.
I talked to a man who was an elected official in western Oklahoma. He was a mayor of a town, one of the cities out on I-40. He said, "Paul, old buddy," he said, "you're a wonderful candidate. You're just, you're ideal for this. I like you, my family and my friends will all vote for you, but none of us will stand up for you in public."
I think one reason it's become a hot button issue is because gay people are becoming more visible. As long as they were invisible, it wasn't an issue. It was something that could be swept under the table.
I had been a police officer and having a successful career. October of 2000. By the end of November of 2000, everybody knew I was transgendered, and I went from hero to zero like that.
Oklahoma City police officer Paula Schonauer refuses to be swept under the table. She used to be a man, a husband and father, a soldier in the First War with Iraq, and he was a cop. But after a lifetime of living as Paul, this decorated officer decided to change.
2000 was a hard year. I was having my meltdown. It was decision time.
Why then? Why a meltdown all of a sudden?
Oh, I don't know. Gender dysphoria, euphoria, dysphoria. The polar opposites, I guess. Dysphoria is gender dysphoria is a persistent and intense discomfort regarding one's gender identity.
Dr. Stuart Beasley is a psychologist familiar with this disorder.
People who have gender identities really do go through some stresses, particularly when they try and make themselves be something that they're really not.
If we are to understand one another, we must seek common ground. But I know what you'd say. You'd say we have nothing in common, not today or any day.
Today, Schonauer is different. She's completely Paula. She's also discovered a talent for writing and poetry, but she's also still the same. She's still a parent. Her desire to stay near her children has kept her in Oklahoma City. Her desire to continue to be able to support them forced her to fight for her job, a job she says she still knows how to do well.
After a while, it got really bad. People were threatened by me, and became very hostile towards me.
Schonauer has sued the Oklahoma City Police Department for the right to do her job in a safe environment. She filed again for the right to do her job free of retaliation for complaints levied with the EEOC, and a third suit filed January of 2005 accused the department of trying to force her to quit.
And I could scream and shout, run about up and down the street all day and all night, and still you would not hear my voice, listen to my words, or perceive my being.
I don't understand why they seem to truly hate us.
We're a very fundamental religious state, and that's very fundamentally wrong. It's mentioned several times in the Old Testament. And so people interpret that as being absolutely wrong.
It comes from certain teachings in certain churches that, in my opinion, are taken out of context. In my research, are taken out of context. The most common one is Leviticus 18:22. We all know it. A man shall not lie with another man. It is an abomination.
There are a number of different things that were considered against God's law. So the strange thing is how one type of behavior is taken out of that list and used today to justify discrimination against certain people when the other parts of that law are not being rigidly followed.
Kathy McCallie is the minister at the Church of the Open Arms in Oklahoma City. True to its name, this church is open to all, including the gay community. It's affiliated with the United Church of Christ, a denomination that drew fire for a national television ad campaign touting its open policy.
No way. Not you. I don't think so. No.
The Bible certainly has been used against gay and lesbian people in ways that support discrimination against gay and lesbian people, and even hatred toward gay and lesbian people.
Why do you embrace a book, the Bible, in your faith, if it is the very book that engenders a hatred toward a group of people?
The Bible is such a powerful book, and it is used in so many different ways. I would never give up a book just because one group misuses it or misinterprets it. There are a lot of people who equate homosexuality with promiscuity. And there are a lot of people who don't want to talk about old understandings of sexual ethics that are being violated by straight people now.
I'm a professional go-go dancer. Would you like to take a lesson from me?
Premarital sex is not just an issue for homosexuals. Sex outside marriage is not just an ethical question for homosexuals. Maybe that's why this is such a difficult issue for our culture, because it invites us to, for all of us, to look at our own ethics of sexuality.
Let me be devil's advocate. You're sanctioning gay marriage is an attack on the American family.
That's funny, because I think that was said back in the 1920s. Sanctioning interracial marriage is an attack on the American family. A constitutional amendment was proposed banning interracial marriage, and it did not pass. My relationship is not an attack on anyone else's relationship. Oklahomans need to see that we are not the stereotypes. We are not what they see on TV, and we're not what the pulpits are saying we are. We are average, everyday people. We're football fans, we're car enthusiasts, we're hockey fans.
All right, Dallas. Yeah.
We drink beer, we mow the lawn, we work around the house. Not all of us, especially me, do hair. Or at least my own.
A friend of mine has a comment, says, if we all turn purple today, this would be over. Because statistically, they're looking at like 10 to 15%. Well, stop and think about it. That's roughly the equivalent of the African American population.
And there are people around here who will tell you, I can tell who's gay and who's not gay. And I think they would be shocked and amazed at the people who are gay that they have no idea.
I think if you are simply who you are, wherever you are, whether it's the person in the cubicle next to you, the person down the pew from you on Sundays, that being yourself, that power really will change minds over time.
This is a civil rights issue. People say, well, how can it be a civil rights issue if it's a choice? But being gay is not a choice. I didn't choose this.
Who would choose it? Who would choose the uphill battle? Human nature is to choose the path of least resistance.
One thing that I hear a lot, a term I hear a lot, is the gay agenda, and that people fear the gay agenda. And I haven't gotten a copy of the gay agenda yet. I don't have an agenda other than I just want to, be here with my family, and I want my family to be safe. And if something should happen to Melody, I want to keep my little boy.
God good, God great, amen.
Amen. Amen.
Perhaps the most important question yet unresolved is one which may never be answered to everyone's satisfaction. Is sexual orientation congenital or cultivated? Despite claims of certainty on both sides, some professionals flip that coin squarely on edge.
That's very open for discussion, because many homosexuals will tell you that it's not a choice, that they are just that way. And I wouldn't argue with that, because I think they believe that. I just don't think the jury is in on whether it can be proved scientifically or not.
Ultimately, the question to be answered is not who's right and who's wrong, or what the law ought to permit or prohibit, but whether Oklahomans can live and work with others while disagreeing on myriad points that remain unresolved.
For a VHS or DVD copy of this program, please send a check or money order for $22.95 to the OETA Foundation, Post Office Box 14190, Oklahoma City 73113. Or to place a credit card order, call 800-879-6382 during regular business hours.